It was very foggy when we arrived at our first location, which provided both a challenge and unique photograph opportunities. We parked at the Steely Rig car park, which is free if you're a National Trust member, and then headed up the first hill, which was the most challenging. We stopped a few times on the way up the first hill to catch our breath and take advantage of the views. We could see the fog rolling past momentarily, covering the trees in the distance. At the top of the hill, although there was lots of fog, we could still see quite far and could see the different areas of the countryside being covered with fog sweeping through it. This made for ever-changing compositions. As the sun started to come up, we could see a slight break in the fog, and with the glow of the sun coming through, it was really magical. The views are breathtaking, and I felt extremely lucky to be both out shooting with Marcus, Dave and Ben, and also because the amazing weather provided such fantastic atmosphere. We set up at the top of the first hill and took the time to take in the scenery. Our attention was drawn to what looked like farm buildings, which provided contrast against the overhead fog and the fields surrounding it. I was using a wide-angle Nikon D7100 lens at first to really get the wide view of the surrounding atmosphere that day, but once we set up at the top of the hill, I changed to my Sigma 7300mm telephoto lens to zoom in on the farm buildings as they were quite far away. Once we were finished on the hill, I swapped back to my 11-16mm lens and headed down with the group. We went past a part of the wall which formed a square, and although I don't know what purpose it served, it did however add to the composition. We then headed up the second hill as more light from the sun started to break through the fog and lit up the clouds. The views were like nothing I've ever seen before. They remind me of all the videos I'd seen so many times on YouTube in places like the Lake District, where I wished that I was there, only this time I was. I stood back and watched as Ben stood at the peak of the hill and shot into the fog, and I took this opportunity to take some photographs with Ben as a subject to give scale to the scene. When we arrived at the tree made famous by the Kevin Costner Robin Hood movie, I carried on past it to get the viewpoint different to the classic frontal shot. I waited for everyone to move down the hill to take the shot I wanted. With the thick fog, the light was flat and part of the scene was obscured, so waiting for the right break in the fog was essential. We then headed in front of the tree to get the classic shot. The shot you see so often is achieved by heading up the hill in front of the tree and shooting around 22mm. Before I made my way up the hill, I checked the foreground area in front of it. I particularly liked the formation of rocks on the right side, which were facing the tree, providing a leading line towards it. On the hill we took a few shots and waited for some light. I found a small patch of flowers, which was the only colour I could find other than the grass, the rock and the mud, so I used this as foreground interest in some of my shots. We then returned to the spot behind the tree to get the same views with a better light. From here we headed back towards a car park, taking some shots along the way. Our next location was Hareshaw Linn Waterfall in Bellingham. I've never been to this location before, so I was very excited. The views on the drive up from Sycamore Gap were outstanding, and I wanted to stop on several occasions to catch the countryside with the rolling fog. However, we could not stop as we had to get to the next location. Hareshaw Linn has a small car park just past the main shops in Bellingham. From here it's a 5-minute walk to the first waterfall. I looked around the area of the waterfall and immediately wished I hadn't left my wellies in the car, because within minutes my feet were soaked, but I didn't mind as it was very much worth it. I found a composition I liked and took a few shots, experimenting with my 8-stop filter. Ben and Dave were further over the left side of the waterfall, and although I was curious the composition they found, there was nothing that caught my eye. I didn't want to go there just to catch what they had found. Instead, I wanted to get my own interpretation of the scene. I then looked behind me to where the water was flowing and wondered if there was a better view to be had further down. At first I went without my camera as it involved a bit of climbing to get further down, but once I knew I could do it, I went back for my gear. I found the composition I wanted, which used a stream of water coming down from the waterfall with some foreground rocks. There were signs of autumn everywhere with lots of fallen leaves. We then made our way up to the next waterfall. The path was covered in falling leaves, providing a magical scene. It was truly beautiful. The next waterfall was around 10 minutes up the path, and it was quite tricky getting down to as a fence had been put up to prevent people from falling. The fence, I think, was meant to keep people from going down to the waterfall, but for us it just provided another obstacle, as we were clearly not going to stay at the top. Once down, I wasted no time at all finding my composition, as I could see a fantastic cluster of rocks further down, providing a similar composition to the one I'd liked at the last waterfall. Setting the tripod up was tricky, as I balanced on one of the rocks with the water flowing around me. Again, I used my 8-stop filter to capture the movement in the water. Marcus had gone ahead to check for the next waterfall, which we believed to be the biggest. Once I'd finished taking my shot, I made my way back up to the fence along to where the rest of the group was. Marcus headed back towards us and said the next waterfall was very similar to one we'd already shot, so we decided to head back for some lunch. Where we stood, there was an area of stream which was making some interesting swirling patterns in the rocks, so I decided to get a few shots of this before we left. It truly was a magical day, and one that I remember for a very, very long time. Each week I like to give a recommendation of someone who inspired me from the Facebook group Landscape Photography on YouTube UK. Since I didn't give a recommendation on my last vlog, I'm going to recommend 2 people this week. My first recommendation is Lee Case, as I have watched many of his videos over the last 2 weeks. He provides some great tips and inspires with his get out and go attitude. His photographs are fantastic and his videos are both entertaining and informative. My second recommendation this week is Mads Peter Iverson. His videos capture you in a way I have only seen before with Thomas Heaton. His recent series is based in the UK and provides an informative approach to both access to the location and tips on how to shoot his subject. He is fast becoming my favourite landscape YouTuber, which I've never thought possible over Thomas Heaton. Links to both of these channels are below, and I would certainly recommend checking them out. I would like to thank Digital Camera Magazine and especially Ben and Marcus for choosing me to join them on this amazing day. It truly was a fantastic opportunity and one I will never forget. Please check out Digital Camera Magazine's Facebook page and be sure to buy February's edition, which comes out in January. Also check out Dave Brightwell's Facebook page. He's an amazing photographer with an eye for detail. I will leave the links to his page and Digital Camera Magazine's page below in the description. Thank you for watching, and if you enjoyed the intro, I seriously recommend you seek help. As always, please like the video and leave a comment. It really helps. Take care, and I will see you next time.